All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Goose, Gabe, and Andrew. Calm Waters Coffee. In this episode, we have special guest Andrew Dittman. We cover topics that range from small business ownership, brewing coffee, customer service, effects of the coronavirus, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Herbie Hancock and Seth Godin. Guys, if you're new, thank you for listening. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Thank you guys for joining us. We are back at it again via Zoom. The coronavirus has us operating on different modes, but we are here. And again, as I said in the past two episodes, bear with us with the audio. We know it's not 100%, as we actually would like it. But again, we're operating through an application called Zoom. So thank you, Zoom, for, being there. But with that being said, we're still moving forward, and thank you guys for accommodating, your schedules for this. We definitely appreciate it. Anyway, Andrew, thank you for joining us, man. I know the schedule's kind of busy and we're moving right along. So for those of us who do not know who you are and what you do, let us know.
All right. So I'm Andrew Dittman, and I'm the founder of Calm Waters Coffee Roasters in Bristol, PA. Also primarily a husband and a father. So, I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we started getting rolling in 2014, and here we are today.
Nice. All right. So your location, let's talk about your location, right? You're in Bristol Borough, you're on Mill Street. Talk a little bit about how you selected your location.
Location. I mean, it's full of good stories. But so we moved out here kind of on a whim, in a sense. We had some people. We were out in Oregon before this, and some people out in Bristol knew we were looking to do a coffee shop, and they asked if we would consider coming out here to Bristol. We decided to make the move. Got here, only knew a handful of people. One of which was the realtor we were renting from. We just started to show up at this random grant meeting that we had really no business being at because we didn't have a business, but we were like, where else do you start? And it turns out the only people we knew in the room was our realtor. And we're like, oh, hey. And so, what are you guys doing here? It was a grant for the facade grant, which you guys are probably familiar with.
Yeah.
The first round of it back then. And we're like, oh, cool. Do you guys have a building, on Mill Street? And they're like, yeah, we've got a building on 200 block. And we're like, oh, cool. What is it? And they're like, well, it's nothing right now. We're rehabbing it. And we're like, oh, what are you guys going to do with it? And then pretty much what they said was, well, we heard through the grapevine what you guys were interested in doing. And we were kind of hoping to find a couple like you guys to do something like what you guys are talking about. And we're like, oh, okay. So they're like, you guys want to take a stroll and go check it out? So we're like, sure. So we walked down, and one of the most beautiful buildings on the street, 242. Mm-hmm. And we walk inside, and it's complete dump. The whole thing is being gutted. Tim and Maureen, the building owners there, and Tim's been hard at work, basically stripping it down to his bones. And so we come in, it's just this empty lot, straight to back, with trash piled up in the middle and 4 layers of floor being stripped back. You know how it is in Bristol, right? You just keep building on top of what you got. And so we just sat there for a minute and just kind of talked about our vision and just kind of thought it through. And it just was like, it was clicking. And so, that, in a sense, the location kind of just fell into our laps. And Tim and Maureen were excited about what we wanted to do. And so that's how it got kicked off.
So let's take a step back. How did you even get started with the whole coffee brewing industry? How'd that even begin?
Yeah, so coffee. So I think I've been doing coffee for, about 12 years now. And my first coffee job was a ways back at Starbucks. And when I got started there, I was barely into coffee. I drank coffee a little bit, but I got it for the job. It was like, hey, yeah, I got to get a job. They were posting. I was like, great, let's do it, And so that's when I started. And that, like, it did not take long for me to fall in love with what was going on there. And so basically, the thing I always summarize is the three things that I fell in love with. One was just the atmosphere for coworkers, right? Really cool atmosphere, high paced. The other one was, barista to customer, which is, as you all probably experienced, it's kind of like a bartender type atmosphere.
Yeah.
People trust you because you're making their drink. They want to share their life with you. And then the other one that really stood out to me was the customer to customer. And so, just seeing how people who would relate with each other in the shop who wouldn't really give each other a chance on the street, people from all different walks of life. But it's once you're in the shop, that's what you have in common. You got coffee in common. And so it kind of knocks down the walls. So from there, I did that for several years and traveled a bit, hopping from shop to shop. I ended up getting into roasting, which is kind of really one of our main things. So if that's okay, I'll blend brewing with roasting.
Yeah.
Okay. So my introduction to roasting, I was actually working at a camp up in northern Wisconsin, and there was no coffee out there except for like food service coffee, which is, food service coffee.
Sure.
I was a little spoiled at that point, and so I was like, you know what? I was like, I'll bet you I could roast my own coffee. So ordered some green beans from this place called Sweet Maria's. Went to the thrift store, got a little pressure cooker, threw it on my stove in my apartment, and just started messing around with it. Smoked it out so many times. Made a lot of people mad, but I just gave them free coffee, and so that's how I got into roasting. And then to jump forward a little bit, I'll give a little shout out to my friends at Rival Brothers down in Philly, because when we came back out this way, they offered me an opportunity to roast out of their facility down in Philly. So that gave me a chance to do like actual production roasting for a real specialty coffee roaster, as opposed to just, in my kitchen on the stove.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, but that's kind of that's the summary, I would say, at least of, the coffee journey.
So how did you know, what came to the point where you're saying, you're giving samples to your neighbors, and I'm sure you're getting feedback from friends and family. How did you know you had something that you could make a jump to possibly an actual business?
Yeah, well, I don't think it actually really came down to the product first, to be honest. It's what I fell in love with in coffee first was people and the community. And so that, when I think kind of like what made me make the jump, because even to this day, coffee is something you just keep learning about. It's like you've never mastered it.
That's cool.
It's pretty crazy, really, what's going on there. But I guess what kind of made the jump for me, if I can translate your question a little bit, was, as I was traveling from shop to shop, I just saw the things that mattered to me, the people in the community and what that space did for people was transcendent to every place I went. Different cultures, different people groups, different economic levels. And so it kind of started hitting me. I'm just like, this is something special about this type of environment. And I love it. I'm a people person. Like, that's why I do what I do. And so I think that started to click relatively early on. It just got confirmed the more I went along. And then finally I was just kind of at this place. I was like, man, working for other companies is great, but I primarily have a vision for people and community and neighborhoods. And coffee is super important to me as well. But I felt like we were ready and wanted to have the freedom to kind of make what was most important to us primary. And so that was what kind of gave me the push to be like, all right, how are we going to figure out to do this on our own? Which, of course, you do have to also have great coffee.
Right. Yeah. And so how did you come up with the name Calm Waters Coffee Roasters?
Yeah, so that's important to us, really, because that, in a lot of ways, really sums up who we are and why we do what we do. We were looking for something. So for my wife and I, drinking coffee has always been something that you slow down to do. It's in a lot of ways, it's the opposite of what it's been made, in like fast-paced American culture. It's not absent totally. A lot of people appreciate coffee the way we do, but for us, it was like, you're slowing down, you're waking up, you're reading in the morning, you're sitting by a campfire, you're taking time, slowing down, being present. And so funny enough, we were reading through the book of Matthew, and we came across this story, and in the back of our mind for a while, we're like, what's the name going to be? It's like something about like slow, stillness. We like that. My wife and I met leading canoe trips actually on rivers together.
Okay.
So like water's been a really big part of who we are, and kind of spending time out in nature like that. And so we've been, what is it? Like Stillwater? Like, no, that's a town in Minnesota. Like, no. And then so we were reading through it, and all of a sudden, you guys, you probably heard this story before, but it's, Jesus is in the boat with the disciples, and there's a storm. And so you're just sitting there, and it's like there's a crazy storm. And like everyone's like, oh my gosh, we're going to die. Everything's crazy, blah, blah, blah. And then Jesus comes up, and at least in the one we were reading, it said, and he calmed the waters.
Right.
And we were just like, that's what we want. Feel when they come into our shop. It's like life's crazy. We all got stuff going on, and not that calm waters is going to solve that, but like when people come through our door, we want them to feel that. It's one of our staff says it kind of well. He's like, it's like the 5-minute vacation that people get to take from me.
Yeah.
And it's like, and we really feel that. And so that's why that name stuck and has kind of continued to be like an anchoring force and what we're trying to produce in the shop and the type of atmosphere. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So when you obviously first get into this space, it's completely gutted. Talk us through a little bit about the process of how it became what it is today. The setup, the seating, how you have, basically the layout.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you hear throughout, anytime you ask us questions, you probably hear a common thread of like, we did not do it alone.
Yes.
We had a lot of, support, a lot of people in every different phase, different people doing different things. I'm pretty limited in my skill set myself.
Yeah.
The first one that was a huge blessing was the building owner, Tim. Tim and Maureen just blessed us like crazy because they basically were like, hey, we're already building this stuff out. And he's a builder, so he can do a lot of this hard stuff himself. And they're like, you tell us, you got us in here at the perfect time. So basically tell us where you want the plumbing, where do you want the bathrooms, where do you want this? And, he took care of all that stuff, the electrical stuff that like, I should not be touching any of that.
Yeah. You and me both, man.
Yeah, and so that was amazing. And so, basically I just, when it comes to like floor plans, I have a decent amount of experience in a handful of cafes, so I was pulling from what I got, and I just spent a lot of time with paper and pencil and just, drawing out our dimensions, trying to look at workflow, trying to look at, customer flow coming through, all those things. And, buildings in Bristol are kind of funky, so you kind of got to work with what you got.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we figured out the floor plans. Tim helped me with a lot of that stuff. And then we had, there's a local church in town called Redemption, and there's a crew of people from there that helped us, just clearing stuff out, ripping down old insulation, painting. Had some really close friends of mine help with just like, we Mod Podged everything together because we started with like nothing. We came out here with, really nothing to our name. So we just kind of took what we had, old stuff from the basement there used to be a little like, breakfast donut shop type thing, and you guys probably remember that actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And, so there were like old table bases in the basement, and just a lot of people just helping us clean things up, do what we got to do, and figure it out. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what about the atmosphere with all that? What was kind of like the atmosphere you're trying to create, right? So you have, the color of the walls, the color of, the furniture and all that stuff. What ideally, what kind of atmosphere are you trying to create or have created?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it comes down to our name, right? We don't want you to walk into Calm Waters and feel stressed out. Right. So we avoided like the yellow paint, and different things like that, or we we wanted to make a space that was comfortable, but, professional. We wanted to be, clean and simple. Just, again, kind of a lot of things when we had in mind. It's just like, we want this to look good, but we also don't, a lot of, I think, what relaxing spots and helping people slow down and be present is just not having a ton of distractions. And probably there's already going to be natural ones. Like we have our roaster in the cafe, which is one of our favorite things, and people love that. So that's like a big centerpiece. People get to see that in action. But yeah, like the walls, we did like a blue color, stuff like that, just kind of going to fit with the vibe we're trying to create. And even today we continue to tweak stuff. We're working on updating the lighting just to kind of like brighten things up a little bit, like that. But yeah, again, awesome. we want you to come in. The biggest thing too is coffee shops. This isn't as much like stylistic as it is environment, but a lot of specialty coffee shops can feel daunting to come into. You kind of got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I've always hated that.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, coffee is supposed to be something that brings people together. And so we're always trying to make specialty coffee approachable. We want to do it at a really high level, but we want to make sure people know it's not their job to know that. That's our job. You just got to come in and enjoy it. So those types of things really play a big role into the environment, and the setup is really just like, how are we treating people?
That's interesting that you said that, because I think you put into perfectly what a lot of people feel, and you put it into words. It was funny because I was having a specialty coffee maybe a couple years back, and I was like telling my wife, I'm like, you got to try this. This is amazing. And she had a sip of it and was like, oh my gosh. She's like, the problem is every time I see those places, it freaks me out because I feel like I need to know what I'm ordering and I don't know it. I just get overwhelmed and it stops her. So that's not just her. I'm sure like a lot of people, but can you talk a little bit about what customer service means to you? Because that's kind of part of that.
Yeah. That's a really interesting conversation in our industry, especially because of what you just said, right? It's like a lot of times people don't know what they want. Or they'll come in with something that they know from, let's say, like Dunkin' Donuts, and they're really used to that, and they'll come in and be like, I want that. Or the classic one is, I want a caramel macchiato. Like the classic Starbucks drink. I think everybody does that now. I'm not sure, but and I think some of that's just out of like, people just want what they want, but also some of that is out of like discomfort of like, I don't know what to try. I don't know what I would like. And so we try to do a lot of work with our staff, and like, I don't know if diffusing is the right word, but it's like when you see that, when you feel that, you got to anticipate that and put yourself in those shoes, you're that person's shoes. To kind of go back and try to answer your question more directly, for like customer service, I've worked at a lot of places where customer service is just give people what they want.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's, at least for what I do, I don't think that's good customer service. Because I think we can give them something better. And a lot of times I don't think people know what they can get. And that might be product, but that might also be experience. Some people want to come in and they'll be like, why don't you have a mobile app so I can pick up my drinks? And it's like, and just like run out the door. And it's like, well, one, like your coffee's going to be 30 minutes cold.
Right.
Two, it's like, we want to say hi to you. Like, we want you to come in and enjoy the experience. And then on like the product side, it's like, sometimes I think of like a really good, steakhouse, and you don't go into like a really good steakhouse and tell the head chef how to cook his food.
Right.
No, no, I'm not going to go into Miguel's barbershop and be like, all right, let me tell you how to cut hair,
Right. Absolutely.
But you go somewhere and like the idea is to build trust, right? So you build trust that like they know they're coming to you because they know they're going to get something good. And so, customer service is really about the whole experience, from the minute someone walks in the door, to when they're ordering, to when they're waiting, to when you're handing off the drink and they're spending time in your cafe. It's serving them well, but serving them in the ways that we've chosen is good, and obviously we make accommodations where you need to, or you do special things, someone's in a wheelchair outside and they can't come in. Yeah, we're going to take them coffee outside, right? It's like, we don't do other than right now because of the virus, we don't do curbside delivery, but, there's a time and a place to, bend the rules. But at the end of the day too, it's like, and this is what we try to really hone in with our staff too. It's like, just love people well. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
But also like trust in what you've learned here. Be confident that you're serving people good things. Sometimes it takes a little time for people to understand what that is, and that's okay. So there's 1,000 different scenarios of how that plays out, but I think you get the idea, right?
Absolutely. So in your opinion, what makes a good coffee brew, right? So, I mean, there's people will say, well, I could just get coffee at X, Y, and D corner store, or, these, grab and go spots, gas station.
Yeah.
What makes it a specialty coffee for those that are thinking like, well, I can get coffee anywhere? Can you explain what separates you all from those shops?
Yeah. Well, once again, this is a more complicated topic than people often realize. So I'll try to summarize it. And a lot of it, to be honest, I'm still learning. I'd say probably where you should start with is where you're getting your coffee from. And I don't mean the shops, but, the roasters, where the roasters getting their coffee from. A lot of people don't even realize coffee comes from a farm, and good quality coffee is actually hand-picked, and that's a lot of labor, and people need to get paid for that. And so it should raise some red flags sometimes, when you can get a 50-cent coffee, it's like,
right.
Well, one, quality for sure, but two, just like ethically, it's like, I don't think people realize how many hands go in just to getting coffee to a roaster.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I've become even more passionate about coffee as I learned that. It's just like, man, coffee is a force for good in the world for sure on so many levels, locally and globally. So it starts there, getting, farmers growing really good coffee. You can grow crappy coffee and not care. And there's people who do that because there's people who just want to buy tons of coffee and they don't care if it's good. So first it starts with getting good coffee from the farm, being stored well. There's the importing and the storing. And then, when it comes to roasting, that's a whole nother beast. It's kind of like a lot of other things. You could brew your own beer and drink it, but it might not be good, right? Like there's a reason that people become craftsmen in that, or same thing with baking bread. It's like, you don't want to eat my bread,
Absolutely.
But you could eat it. And it's the same thing with roasting. It's like, hypothetically, anybody could roast and brew coffee, but it's actually extremely complex and nuanced. There's a lot of chemistry going on. There's a lot of stuff. You're working with an agricultural product, and so it changes year to year. And so the roasting side of things is a whole business in itself, a whole craft in itself. And again, even in the industry, people are still figuring this out. It's like people are still like, what's actually going on when you're roasting that coffee? So that is probably, when it comes to like the cafe, experience, having a good roaster is huge. And then of course it comes down to preparation in the cafe. That's like the last 10 feet, is you can brew crappy coffee. A lot of people don't clean their machines well, so their coffee tastes bitter, but just from the buildup of oils, understanding recipes for brewing, of extraction and, time and, brew rates, flow rates, all those things. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that a lot of places that make coffee don't take most of any of those things into consideration. I shouldn't say a lot of coffee shops, but just like you just get, like if you're getting coffee at 7-Eleven, the guy making that coffee is not thinking about any of that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not a diss to him. That's his industry, and like, he's there for other reasons. But it's what sets us apart. If you come to get a cup of coffee from here, all of that stuff is going into it. And that's true for like, pretty much any specialty coffee shop you're going to go to. There's a lot to unpack there, but does that kind of answer your question?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of after you put all that together, and we got, I know it's just a scratch of the surface of exactly what you do. But when the customer then gets the final product
Mm-hmm.
and comments to you all on, you know, how much they love it. I mean, what kind of feeling do you get? I mean, is that like, you know, is it like, wow, it was all well, you know, worth it, and, you know, just the feedback?
Oh yeah, it's amazing, man. I love it. That's, you know, I think I remember not a specific time, but I remember the transition, because when we first started roasting, you know, in preparation for our shop, you know, we were giving our coffee to friends and family, and it's like, you never know if that's good feedback, because they're all like, "You're doing a good job," you know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. You know.
Yeah. They're just being supportive. I get it. Yeah, no, that's true. It's very true.
Yeah, but you know, once we started actually getting our coffee out there to the public, that's when like the feedback really meant a lot, and that was big fuel for us in the beginning, because, you know, a lot of people told us when we were starting they didn't think a specialty coffee shop like ours would work in Bristol. They're like, people don't want it. It's not the right spot.
Yeah.
And we disagreed, you know, and, you know, at least we hoped that they were wrong. And then, you know, we found out that they were, you know, and it's not for everybody, and that's okay. You know, and I think people should still go to the places that, you know, you get what you want, you know. But getting that type of feedback now is amazing, and especially now because we continue to work hard at understanding roasting more and all these things. So anytime a new bean comes out, which happens pretty regularly, it's like we've spent a ton of time on the back end profiling that roast, cupping, tasting, tweaking things. And so it's a lot of time that goes into it before it even comes out as a roast we offer. And so when someone takes that home for the first time and then post online like, "Yo, this new roast is amazing," it's like, yes, you know, like, yeah, that's what we were going for, you know, thank you. So it's super encouraging. I love it.
So when you add a new roast, do you take one out?
Yeah, typically. So, you know, right now we pretty much don't carry more than 5 beans at a time. Okay. And one of those is a decaf, which, for the record, we also have a really great decaf. A lot of people don't take decaf very seriously, but with where specialty coffee is at now, there's some amazing decaf coffees out there. So we put just as much time into that as we do our regular.
Wow.
But so yeah, so typically, like, when, you know, when one's about to leave, like, be done, because, you know, again, it's a crop, right? So there's only so much available. At that point, we typically already have one that's ready to go, that we've already gone through the whole process, and we're probably doing research and sampling, you know, anywhere, you know, 3 to 4 other coffees in different processes. So, you know, we're working on several as stuff's kind of coming out. But yeah, typically it's like when one leaves, one's going to take its place, and we try to have a nice spectrum of like variety. You know, there's different processing methods. It's all these fun details. I don't know if we want to get into now. You know,
is there one that you always will have?
No. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We don't do that. So, some, you know, and some places can do that, you know, and do that really well because they're bigger, you know, and so they might be able to work with a farm and buy, you know, their whole crop, and maybe it's a big farm and they can buy that year after year. Where, you know, we're too small to do that. We do sometimes get the chance to buy a full crop of a certain bean, but it's usually from, you know, like a smaller offering, you know, so like even if we buy their whole crop that they're offering of that bean, it might only last us for 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
But yeah, that's part of the cool thing too of, you know, at least how we like to highlight coffee is we do only single origin coffees right now. And so basically what that means is it's one bean. And so lots of times there'll be blends. So if you see a bag, it's like your breakfast blend, you know, that's a blend of several different coffees, which is also great. You can get awesome flavors out of that. But we really like to do one bean at a time. And that's why it's called single origin. And so we get to highlight. It's like drinking a bottle of wine. You know, it's like you want to really like pull out what was unique about that farm and how they made it and all those things. And so that goes into making that. So
that's awesome.
That's how we do it.
Yeah. So, like when you guys were, you know, kind of getting started and there was kind of buzz, so to speak, that there was a coffee shop opening, Goose, I kind of want you to like kind of chime in here because obviously Miguel owns a, you know, a business as well. And it was kind of like, I remember us talking about it before we even knew who you were. We're just talking about, yes, here we go. Mill Street's taking off, Bristol's taking off. This is good for businesses. It's good for the town. Goose, you remember that time period?
Well, yeah. So I remember like when I had the smaller shop on Ratcliffe Street. So we would I'm a coffee drinker myself. So in the mornings I would run to like the Wawa on the way to work or whatever. But there's certain times of the day where I feel like I'm crashing and I want to get some coffee. And in I guess it was like 2011, 2012, there was really nowhere in like off Mill Street to get coffee. Like we would just like one of our customers are like, "Oh, I'm on my way," and we would tell them, "Yo, can you stop and grab us coffee?" And it was just like, dude, it was. And then they don't know how to make my coffee like the way I like it, and So it was. As soon as I saw like, I remember I think it was one of the tree lighting or something. You guys had a sample thing, and I'm like, oh, and I heard of like, yeah, there's your coffee shop, and I remember seeing the building like in the works of being done and stuff. And I remember seeing your coffee. You guys had like a little right by the tree, you guys were like selling like little cups of coffee and stuff. And I remember going to the line and you guys ran out and you were running down the street to grab like another, or one of your employees to grab another. I'm like, damn, this really must be really good coffee because it's already like gone. It's going. Their line was pretty long. So I do remember when National Store opened up, and it's like Bristol has like its own like historic. The town's historical, so you have these old buildings, and you guys definitely did a good job keeping like that, like the historical out, like the front of the store. So you walk in, and then you come in, you see like this, like the roaster is like kind of like right, like you said, it's like your trophy of the place. Like it's like this nice, like chrome shiny or whatever the material it is, and it's like the setup of the whole shop shop is like it's and you guys utilize it right because buildings in Bristol are so small and narrow, so like it can get congested really quick if you don't have like the right flow of people moving around and the right seating. And I was like, damn, this is like, they really thought about the whole thing. I remember grabbing the first cup of coffee. I'm like, this is it. Like this is my, because growing up we drink like Spanish coffee, which is like kind of like an espresso, and it's stronger than normal like coffee. And I remember having the first sip of that. I'm like, yes, and it was like an adjustment. So I didn't know what kind of beans you guys are using and stuff, but you do definitely do like an amazing job. Like on your display, what kind of coffee you guys have going on, like your specialties, and your staff is amazing. Everyone's like so personal, like you said. It's everything that you've been talking about. It's like you actually have like mastered it, like in a way. And but like, dude, like I'll have a cup of coffee, and then like 3-4 o'clock comes, I'm like dragging. I'm like, yo, I need an Americano, so I'll just shoot right. It's like a block and a half away from my barber shop, and it'll boost me up. And then I'll come back into the shop and I was like, yo, where's your coffee? And I'm like sending people down to you guys, which is like, and it's like, and then you guys have like, you guys offer like little like cakes and stuff like that, pastries and stuff too. So it's not just a coffee shop. But yeah, like me being a coffee drinker and like you guys have different types of variety. Like if I need the energy or need a boost, that's what I'll grab something. If I just want to like walk out of the barbershop just to clear my mind for a second, I just walk there and grab a small regular cup of coffee. And I come back and it's like a reset and I'm going back to work. So it is just having that coffee shop in town. It's like, I don't know. It is like a refreshing like environment. You go in, and Andrew, we went there last week. Me, Ava, and Lauren. We walked down and you had to sign up and on the front door, and we called, made the order. You came out, brought it out to us, and it's just like, I don't know. It's just like that stop. Everything's shut down. So like your shop is like one of the ones that are very few that are open in town. So it's like now it's like it's like a stop for everyone to go to. And we were staying out front. People just start piling up, like kind of walking by, doing the same thing. So it's like you guys do an amazing job in town. Like I really appreciate like just having you guys around and I remember in the very beginning you just had your kid and you were having like on your arm. You guys are at the register or whatever. Like you just made it work. Yeah, and that's how I was when I first opened my shop. Ava, my daughter, she was like 2 or 3 years old, and there's nights I'm in there like painting, and she fell asleep. Was there till like 10 o'clock at night. She fell asleep, and I'm like, you make it work. There's like no like you make there's no obstacles that are in your way. You're gonna go through, and you guys definitely do an amazing job. You guys have a really good product, and I love that you guys are in the town. So yeah, I love it, and I wish I could get there more often. I just get to, but
no,
yeah.
I love it when you swing by. Every time I see you come by a shop, I'm so honored. I'm like, oh, the one and only Miguel.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is this is special.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It is like for me when I go there, it's like a little break. I do take my time walking and I have my cup of coffee, and it's like, it's awesome. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man.
All right, cool. So Goose, he alluded to a little bit of the effects of the coronavirus. So you want to talk a little bit, walk us through. Well, first, he did mention two things: a little bit about how you're operating currently with the coronavirus situation, and then also some of the other products that you do. Commodores does offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do offer more than coffee. We try to be very intentional about primarily being about coffee because, again, that's what we want to be. That's who we want to be. So, but we do have other stuff. So we work with some, local bakeries and, Lochel's Bakery and, Bucks County Biscotti companies. We got some good treats, fresh baked goods. We also do, like right now we have like 2 sandwiches, a grilled cheese and a ham and cheese. Keeping it simple, but again, just good ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we've got stuff. We've got stuff for you if you're a little bit hungry, you want a little light lunch. But we try to really keep it, again, we don't want to get too much food because we don't want people to view us as like a restaurant.
Yeah, for sure.
And just kind of like keep people learning and focus. A lot of specialty coffee is about education. And so we want to keep people, learning about why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, and so now explain a little bit of how you have to, obviously operate a little bit differently than business as usual with the coronavirus.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so thankful because a lot of people can't be open right now. So
right.
It's just crazy. And I know, Miguel, you're dealing with that, but I'm like, my heart's going out to all you guys. And so I sometimes have a hard time talking about it because I feel like I shouldn't complain about anything.
Right.
That being said, though, just like every business, like, yeah, we've taken some huge hits. And so we've had, those first few weeks were real tricky because the information coming out was vague. It was like, what do you have to close? Do you not have to close? What's the legal thing to do? But then what's the ethical thing to do? There's a lot of tough decisions, and as you guys well know, it's like, it's not just thinking about us, it's our staff, it's our, it's the community, and it's the people we have a lot of people who depend on our shop daily as part of their routine, and not just in a like coffee, but like as in a real, like, we're their only family,
Yeah.
So all those things going through our heads. So that was a little crazy, and we kind of slowly adjusted as, the different information was coming out and, making sure we were being as safe as we could be. And so now we've been rolling with the curbside. I don't know how long it's been. Everything's kind of fuzzy right now.
So true.
I guess it's been like a couple weeks or something like that, but that's been going good. So, just trying to, so we do on the curbside, people can call in, place an order through our website. Then when they get here, they call us or bring it right out to them. Like Miguel was saying, he's done that, several times already. And then we still have, our normal online store, which we've always had, where we just sell, bags of coffee to, shipped to your home. And so that's been, since our cafe sales have like significantly decreased, we've been trying to put a lot more energy towards our traditional online store.
Okay.
Trying to get more people, drinking our coffee at home to, keep paying the bills, and keep things rolling. But the cool thing about that for us is like, that's something that's already about something that we love to do. And so it just was like, it was kind of a side part of our business. And now we're shifting to like, all right, we got to really push on that. We do coffee subscriptions and stuff like that. And so letting people know more that we do that. But one of the things, again, because it's like, we're not just about coffee. Like, I don't think I mentioned this before, but our like mission statement is, it's about more than just great coffee. It's about taking time to appreciate the good things in life, loving your neighbors, and growing as a community. And so like that in essence is like the lens at which we make all our decisions and all these things. And so like one of the things we struggled with is like, man, we don't want to just be like, here's your coffee, see you, or like stuff like that. And so we've been trying to, thankfully we still have awesome people here who are taking coffee out to you, but we're trying to do like little things on top of that. Like there's some really artistic people on staff. So they're like, while they're waiting, they're like drawing these fun little pictures on your cups and just a little something to make you smile. We started including like, inspiring or encouraging quotes in our boxes that we send out to people's homes. Just because again, it's like, even if you're not able to be in our shop, we want, who we are, to still be a part of what you get. But yeah, working with the virus has been nuts, but it's kind of, in some ways, it's like, it just feels like the new normal right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. So what's the website if folks want to actually go and place orders or have a subscription through?
Yeah, the website. So the easiest way to get there is to go to our normal website, which is calmwaterscoffee.com. So that's our traditional website. Right at the top of that homepage is a big block that says "Click here for curbside."
Okay.
That will shoot you to the link. That is the actual like ordering for curbside pickup. Because the actual website for the curbside is like a weird website. It's hard to remember and stuff like that. So we put a link on our webpage. So you just go calmwaterscoffee.com, click that, and then bam, shoots you right there. And we've pretty much got our whole offering, our whole normal menu on there still.
Nice. All right, cool. So just off the cuff, I know it's kind of hard with our last couple guests because everything's so fuzzy and confusing, really. It was interesting that you mentioned that because I remember, having conversations with other small businesses. There, nothing came out in the beginning. It wasn't really clear as to what, people were supposed to do. And then, as you said, ethically, what should you do? But, just looking forward, when the dust clears, so to speak, what's kind of your vision, in the next, 2 to 3 years for Calm Waters Coffee?
Yeah, so that is a tricky question to answer now. We have been working hard at trying to we had a lot of stuff in the works, which I'll keep close to my chest, but before this all happened. And so when this happened, we really had to pivot and, shift stuff, kind of, retreat in a sense, and reel everything back in. But, again, we have a lot of ideas of where we'd like to go. A couple things we're working on pursuing, whether that means, another shop or whatever. It's like, I think the biggest thing is how do we grow our impact? I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but it's like, that's what gets me excited. It's like one of the words that we use a lot in our business when we're talking about our culture to our staff and stuff is just presence. And how powerful that is. For us personally, for everybody, it's like, again, it's in our mission statement, just like taking time to slow down, appreciate the good things. And it's like, we really want to continue to partner with people that resonate with that and execute that and that on some level. So, we already partner with different people on different projects and collaborations, but whatever we do next, it's really going to be about like probably, a few things. One is growing just our coffee family, and kind of I don't know if I should use this word right now, an infectious way.
Yeah.
Like, and what I mean by that is like our hope has always been that like, if you come into our shop feeling kind of down, or a little moody, we hope that you leave feeling a little better. And we hope that has, a butterfly effect throughout your day. Yeah. And so in that sense, it's not really about us. It's about everybody else, just like continuing to be that force of good, that encouragement. And like, that's what we want to spread. And we feel like we have a really unique opportunity to do that through serving awesome coffee.
Yeah.
And having awesome coffee also gives us the opportunity to support those other things that we're trying to continue to develop, which is like on the back end of like, you know, how can we help support these farmers and help continue, you know, this side of industry, so that this can stick around for a long time. So kind of like, I don't know, whatever we're going to do next, it's going to be all about like, it's all about people, it's all about presence, and of course it's about quality. We're never going to sacrifice quality. And then also it's like, whatever we do next, Bristol's our home. So like, we've had a couple people like, oh, I've seen your coffee like getting out there to other places. Like, you guys aren't going to leave, are you? It's like, no, like this is our home. This is our home base. This is where everything's is sourcing from. And so that's important for people to hear, you know, as they see us, you know, working hard, you know. But again, it's like the challenging thing is, you know, to continue to grow. Bristol's small. So it's like, we want to stay here, but in order to stay here and take care of our staff well and all these things, it's like, we got to grow, but we want to do that in ways that are meaningful and good. So that didn't give you any specifics, so I hope that's not annoying, but
thank you for the very vague answer.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding. No, it's interesting because we actually resonate with that response in a massive way. Just with me and the Blessed Lifestyle brand, you see Goose has a shirt, Gabe has a towel behind his couch, I have the shirt on.
I gotta get one of those.
Yeah, I got you, man. We'll connect afterwards. But it was more of like, it had to start somewhere, so we started with the T-shirt, right? But when we're having conversations with people, we're having these little pop-up shots, it's kind of what you said. You want to be that reservoir of positivity that you leave people, you know, better than when you know they met you. And you know, when people walk into your business, it's such an important thing that they, you know, that they do leave in a more positive, you know, manner, that you just made their day. And it's something as simple and complex as a cup of coffee, as we now learned. But it's something as simple as like, that could have been the only thing that person was looking forward to that day, was that simple little cup of coffee. And you just change the trajectory of someone's day. As simple as that may sound.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly, I love hearing you talk about it, because this stuff just gets me pumped up. It just makes it like, I'm already an optimistic guy, but like, man, like it just pumps me up about humanity and what we can be, you know. And it's like, you're right, those small things, like, or you think about how often someone makes just like simple eye contact with you. Like if you're like all stuck in your head one day and then someone holds the door open for you, you weren't expecting it, someone you don't even know, and they look at you and they're like, yo, have a good day. You're like, whoa, what was that? And it's like, that was not hard. That was not difficult.
Yeah.
We have such a capability to like, really, I forget the words you used to say it, but just to spread that, to be that. And it's like, the reality is life's always going to be hard. Yeah. Like, so the goal is not to get to a place where life is not hard, because it's going to be hard. Yeah. Like the virus is going to get figured out at some point, but it's still going to be hard. Yeah. You know, like you're going to figure out your personal problems in your life, maybe, but it's still going to be hard. Like, and so it's really about like, what can we do that we should be doing all the time? And I think a lot of that, like we said too, is it just starts with being present. It's that hard and it's that simple, because it's actually not that easy to be present. But,
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
awesome. Yeah, and especially with, you know, the devices that we have in our hands at, you know, basically at all times. So I think it's very important that that's highlighted. I think it's important that, you know, you also highlight with, you know, one of your team members said that, you know, this is one of those times where people get to take a 5-minute vacation. And it's one of those things that kind of, you know, reminds people we should be present. Almost like that little reset. I mean, my brother talked about it. He goes there just out of, you know, sometimes when he's just feeling a little frustrated or a little down, and kind of takes his mind off things, or it's just you know, recalibrates his thinking, so to speak. And he's back off on his way. And it's funny because you start thinking like it's a coffee shop. And then when you break it down, really it's way more than that. And honestly, it's, you know, it could be someone's, like I was saying before, game changer. And you know how people always thought, you know, when they're thinking like, oh, the best thoughts come when, you know, when you're in the shower or something like that. For some people, the best energy comes from drinking a cup of coffee. People write books while they're drinking coffee. People come up with master plans for their lives when they're drinking a cup of coffee. And this is, and just picturing that you're a part of that. It's just, it's a crazy thought when you really think about it. Yeah. You actually, and bringing, like I was just thinking too, like meeting people up. I mean, when me and my wife were getting married, all of our meetings with, whether it was a photographer, whether if it was, you know, whatever, getting the food situated, the limo stuff, it was all over a cup of coffee. Every single one of our meetings was over a cup of coffee. Yeah. And so I know exactly what coffee shops we were at for every single one of those meetings. So it really is amazing.
Yeah.
It's cool too. Sometimes when I walk into your shop, right, I walk in and kind of, you just like, you kind of people watch. You do like a quick observation, like you see like two guys over here talking. They might be doing like, they might be coming up with the next business plan for the town. You see like someone on a laptop, they're working from home, but they're at a coffee shop. You see a student studying over here. And it's like, there's so much going on that little, but it's still like a peace, tranquil place. Like it's still like, there's a lot of stuff going on, but at like it's just like a low pace, and it's just still like, it's awesome. It's just like everyone has a cup of coffee, and that's why there's so many different things going on in that little spot. And it's just like, it's all through coffee. Everyone
and I think again, like just to track back to what we talked about earlier, is just like, I think this is really important. It's like coffee and coffee shops, but even just coffee in general, is one of those things that brings down the walls between us. You know, and whether it's coffee or it's something else, it's like we got to be putting energy towards those things. You know, whatever those things are, like we need more of that in our world. Like there's too much separation. There's too much, you know, it's just, it's not real. You know, it's like, I shouldn't say it's not real. It is real, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what I love. Like even when you said to go and you walk in, you kind of scan it. It's like, I think about that all the time. And I'm like, man, like whenever people are in our shop, it's like automatically there's this unity between all those people. And like, even if customers might not see as much, but as I've observed it over 12 years, like it's real, man. Like people just need something to like know that they're on the same level, you know, and then treat each other with respect, treat each other like, you know, fellow humans, and then let the love flow, you know, whatever that looks like. But it's important, man. We need to drop the walls.
I love it. One of the most asked for questions that I get emails all the time about is how do you find a balance between work and life, right? Or is it all mixed together? People always, you know, all these reality TV shows are always, I guess a lot of times what makes them attractive to certain viewers is because you get to see the inside scoop of when they're working and when they're not working and how they operate. How does it really work for you, your family, the business, between the team members and all that, you know, jazz? How do you all make it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, one of those things that I'm definitely still learning and working hard at. So it's something though that's been very important to us since the beginning. But I think one of the challenging things about it is, you know, as life changes, as your business changes, like that changes. And so you're just like constantly having to keep an eye on it. Even, you know, there's times so my wife, pretty early on, taught her how to roast. And since then she's actually taken over the whole roasting program.
Oh, wow.
So we've got 2 kids and my wife is also the director of roasting, you know, and I'm running the shop. And so there's seasons, you know, we try to not let this happen too much, but as anyone who has a business knows, it's like nothing ever stays the same. So there's lots of times where it's like, we are literally tagging out, you know, I'm there for the first half of the day. And then I come home and it's literally like, high five, love you, see you later. She goes in and roasts. And then I got the kids, you know, and it's like, but when we're in those times, we understand sometimes that's necessary.
Yeah.
But we always work really hard not to stay in those times long because certain things that are necessary, like, still shouldn't last super long, you know? And so I think the biggest thing that you know, in the beginning, I was not as good at this, and I still probably am not good if you ask my wife. She's amazing. She's so patient with me. But, you know, it's hard especially when you're probably an entrepreneur and your brain is just like, I'm a dreamer, you know, thinking. And so I've really just had to work on like the discipline of my mind.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard, you know, and, you know, I'm kind of a little all over the place anyways.
Sure.
So like really working hard at like, when I'm at work, just be there, you know, be present, do my thing. When I'm in the office, do my thing. And then it's like, as soon as I'm wrapping up, I got to make that shift before I even leave the shop, you know, of like, okay, it's done. It's like, I'm leaving. And then like, you know, on my short walk, bike or drive home, you know, because we're just down the street too. It's like, all right, like I'm going home to be a husband. I'm going home to be a dad. And again, it doesn't happen perfect every time, but like, I think, and even my wife has to do that too, because she's now running the whole roasting program. And it's like, you know, sometimes we just got to turn off our phones, which is hard because, you know, you're always nervous of like, what was the phone call I needed to get? Or like, what if the building's on fire? Or blah, 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 you know, this and that. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes we just got to step aside. You got to turn off the phone. And so we, you know, from the beginning, we've really tried to fight to have a day off. You know, the goal was to have 2 days off. That very rarely happens, but we're still working hard at getting there. You know, you'll get it for like a couple weeks, and then it's like crazy stuff happens, and you don't have a day off for a month. You know, but it's just like, yeah, you know, I think creating the boundaries that we think are healthy for our family. And that might be different for other people too. Like some people might say, Andrew, you should work more. You own your own business. And I'm like, no, like, because that's not the only thing in my life. I want to be there with I heard too many people say, yo, like, don't neglect your marriage. Don't neglect your kids. And I believe it. And I see how easy it is to do. You're not doing it on purpose. Yeah. But you just get wrapped up. And so it's like, we really try to draw hard lines and, you know, and be like, this is our goal. And then we work hard to hit that. And then we have grace when it has to change, but then we work hard to get back to it. So it's not easy. So I feel for anybody who's wrestling through that, but I also would say like, it's so important because yeah, you can't let those things fall apart. You know, you got to have that balance.
Awesome. It's great advice. Before we close out, do you have anything additional you want to talk about or plug or anything like that?
Oh man, I don't know. Again, I just feel very grateful. So like, I won't go through the list, but there's so many people who are doing stuff with us right now. And I'm just thankful that they want to work with us. Thankful for I was just reflecting on the other day. I just like, I could have never done this by myself. So just throughout the whole process, I'm thankful to everybody. So thankful for my wife, obviously, and sticking with me through all this, and my awesome kids. And I don't know, I mean, learning how to take care of ourselves. I think that's important for all of us, right? So
100%.
Whether people are listening to this and trying to get into business or just, you know, doing anything else, it's like, and we just got to keep learning how to take care of ourselves so that we can actually love people well.
Awesome. Thank you. Well said. All right, so there you have it, folks. We like to close things out with quotes, and the first one is by Herbie Hancock. It's parts of life to have obstacles. It's about overcoming obstacles. That's the key to happiness. And the second one by the famous Seth Godin. Being aware of your fear is smart. Overcoming it is the mark of a successful person. All right, so there you have it, folks. Calm Waters Coffee. In this episode, we have special guest Andrew Dittman. We cover topics that range from small business ownership, brewing coffee, customer service, effects of the coronavirus, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Herbie Hancock and Seth Godin.
Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success, available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.